Hey everybody, happy Monday.
Happy Monday, everyone. We've got another in the Buddies series for you. We've done a lot of buddies, we've done bettas, we've done angelfish, and I don't even know, but this one is about the Oscar.
Yes.
We're going to be discussing what are the best Oscar buddies stocking options for your Oscar tank. It's a great fish. Hope you enjoy the video. Appreciate you being here. Now, there are a few assumptions we're making here when it comes to keeping Oscars. We've done an Oscar care video. I'll put that in the upper right-hand corner as well as in the description below. But one of the assumptions is we're assuming that you've got a tank that is conducive for the Oscars growth long-term, which means 6 foot or greater. Bare minimum of 125. Ideally, if you could push that into the land of 210, 240, that would be even better. But we're assuming at least a 6-foot tank. Some of these fish, we're assuming that the tank might even be larger, and we'll mention that as we go through the video. I think the other assumption that we're making is Oscars are not terribly aggressive. I know for their size, they can seem menacing because they have a large mouth and they can eat smaller fish, but that doesn't make them aggressive. All fish will eat fish smaller than them if they have the opportunity. So I would not consider the Oscar to be a very aggressive fish, and therefore we're going to be very careful about the other fish that we put in the tank. And the third assumption is sometimes the best buddies for your Oscar are more Oscars. They do tend to get along just fine, provided that the tank size is adequate for their overall behavior and their overall temperament. If you get a pair, all bets are off. So just keep those things in mind. Okay, what do we got?
All right, so since they are cichlid, let's talk about other cichlids that you can keep with them. Geophagus, be a great choice. Who doesn't love Geophagus? And then Severums.
Yeah, those are both great choices. They, just like the Oscars for the most part, aren't terribly aggressive, and you've got so many options. We've kept a lot of different types of Geophagus in our fish room over the years. Geophagus altifrons is one that we absolutely love. We've kept Oscars with Geophagus steindachnerai, which was a really cool combination. Geophagus brasiliensis will often work, but there are a lot of different types of Geophagus that will add a ton of different colors to your fish tank, and they generally get along just fine with Oscars. You mentioned the Severums. Mm-hmm. We've done that combination before too, and there are a lot of cool Severums, a lot of cool colors. You got the greens, you've got the golds.
Red shoulder
Severum, you've got the red spot Severum. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of different types, and just like the Oscar, they're not terribly overly aggressive, and they tend to get along just fine. Now, the other options when it comes to cichlids, consider the electric blue acara. These are fish that just tend not to be aggressive, mind their own business. And one of the things that we're doing here, again, is we're trying to make sure that we can keep fish that are not going to get eaten by Oscars. Oscars grow fast, and so something you have to consider is if you get a very tiny Oscar and a very tiny Geophagus, that Oscar is going to grow at probably 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times the rate of the Geophagus. So we don't want to get really tiny tank mates for the Oscar and then find out 6 months or a year later your Oscar is now 8 or 9 inches and those other fish haven't grown very fast. So these fish, you just want to make sure that they're large enough not to fit in the Oscar's mouth long term. But the electric blue acara are great. The other one to consider are a lot of the Therichthyes genus, and that would include the Therichthyes maculopinus and the Therichthyes micai, which are the firemouth cichlids. Even though they tend to be a little bit aggressive looking with their gill flaring and all that stuff, most of the time it's a lot of show and not a lot of outright aggression. Obviously, it can be, it's dependent upon the fish, but I think those are some safe options when it comes to cichlids. Cichlids you want to stay away from are the really aggressive ones. And so if you're looking at like I think a Feste cichlid or a flower horn or some of these Midas cichlids and red devils, sometimes they work, but you're running the risk of having those other fish rule the tank at the expense of the Oscar that you fell in love with.
Now, if you want some buddies for your Oscar, you could look at schooling fish. What would be some good options for schooling fish? Well, this is a fish that, fun fact, historically I've never been attracted to, but recently it's starting to grow on me, which I knew it would be, the silver dollars.
Silver dollars are cool. They don't get overly large, but they're definitely big enough that your Oscar's not going to be able to eat them. They're fairly active. They're aggressive eaters, and so they're going to be able to keep up with your Oscars just fine. And I would just say it's a nice schooling type of shoaling fish. There are others, but again, we're assuming now, as I talk about these other fish, that you're probably going to have a tank that might even be bigger than 6 feet. Your ballast sharks, your tinfoil barbs, even your flagtail Procholotus, those are all potentially great options to have with your Oscar. But these are fish, understand that they also should be kept in groups and can also grow up to 1 foot or more. And they're going to need some serious space. And a 6 foot tank is not going to provide them that space long term. So if you got a larger tank, those other fish, like I just mentioned, are going to be fine. If your tank is 6 feet, you might want to stay with the silver dollars if you're looking for a group of fish that's going to stay in a group.
Now for cleanup crew, I think we've got some great buddies here. First of which would be the bristlenose pleco. I think a great choice for Oscar buddies would be a male pleco, and that would probably generally stay towards the back of the tank. It'll come out at night and do a lot of its work then. But this is really great for an Oscar because an Oscar is kind of a messy eater, and they're going to be spreading food all over the tank, and your bristlenose will clean up all that food. They're going to be a great buddy. And then also the Chinese algae eater, but keep in mind they are a little bit more aggressive, and they're going to get a whole lot bigger. They could be up to a foot.
Yeah, these are both great fish. Again, the issue often is how do we control the algae in an Oscar tank, and both of those will do that to a certain extent. When we've had a lot of bristlenose in our Oscar tanks in the past, in our 125s, and they're fairly active. And yeah, as those Oscars are eating and they're spreading food all over the place, the bristlenose are actively doing what they're doing. Again, they'll come out at night, clean up some algae. Lots of different colors too with the bristlenose. You got the super reds, the green dragons, the albinos, the standard browns. So you got some color variety there. And those Chinese algae eaters, they get a bad rap for a reason, but in an Oscar tank with some of the other fish that we've talked about so far, it actually might fit in well. Now, you do also have some other fish that could kind of hang out towards the bottom, eat the food that falls to the bottom, and that would be something like a lot of your larger loaches. And so clown loaches would come to mind. Those could be a really nice option in your Oscar tank. The green tiger botia, this is a rather large loach that can also get up to a foot. They can be pretty aggressive. I don't recommend mixing the green tiger botia with other types of loaches, but they are a really cool fish that will certainly be active, and it will be very assertive in a tank where you're talking about Oscars and other types of South Central American cichlids. The other one that's really not assertive at all, and it's just kind of a peaceful hangout sort of fish at the bottom that's going to eat all kinds of food at the bottom, that's the Raphael cat. You got the striped Raphael, you got the spotted Raphael. They're basically lazy. You might not see them all the time, but they're going to come out and they will eat lots of food that falls to the bottom of the tank. So those are some options. All right, I'm sure there are lots of others. If you've had other fish that you've kept with Oscars successfully, would love to hear that down in the comments section below. But we wanted to start out with a list that I think are pretty safe. Again, we want to give those Oscars plenty of space. If you want more information on the fish that we've talked about here, we'll have some species profiles down in the description below. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.